All right, Bears Saints, the last NFC game here. This is gonna be a much quicker video. Obviously, given the timeline, don't really have time to go through everything. As far as weather, it's indoors, so not an issue injury wise. So we'll start with the Bears offense being the away team. Darnell Mooney listed questionable. They better hope he plays. He's their second best receiver. He's really good. I think he's going to though. And then Trey Hendrickson out for the Saints. I don't really care that much. He is fine. He's got a bunch of sacks because of the situation he's in. I don't hate him. I think he's okay actually, and he earned a lot of those. But the difference between him and Marcus Davenport in this game probably not really relevant. So yeah, Bears offense. So first in terms of running the ball, it's not great. Bears not really generally a good rushing team. They've been better recently. A lot of that is due to the teams they've played. They played a consecutive like terrible rush defenses, and that is not the case here. Yeah, their interior. Sam Mustapher, Alex Bars. They were backups for a reason going into the year. They played better than a lot of people expected, but they still are both kind of mediocre, and they can be vulnerable to especially like stronger interior tackles, guys who knows how to use their hands, and that's pretty much like the definition of what the Saints have. David Onyemata, Sheldon Rankins, Malcolm Brown, all really good at that. Now none of them are like destructive forces by themselves, but the weight of that is really an issue. And Cody White here too. He really has similar problems to. So this is gonna sound kind of goofy, but he I think of him a lot of the way I think of Quinn Nelson, but infinitely worse. But where if he does something right on a play, it looks really good, but he can fuck up and he can fuck up bad. And notably, he does a whole lot more than Quinn Nelson, but that's the way I think of him. So there's not like an interior time advantage on the edge. Bears tackles not good run blockers. Jermaine Ifedi like can do a little bit again against worse teams. Not the case here. Cameron Jordan is going to be a dominant edge defender in this game, and frankly, even without Trey Henderson, Marcus Davenport is probably going to be okay. He's got the size to stand up. Him I am a little bit more worried about. On the second level, again, Demario Davis, really good run defender, and his issues come up with like sideline to sideline stuff. Bears not great about exploiting that. David Montgomery's just fucking slow, so he really has issues with that. So he's going to be good in this game. Alex Anzalone, their second linebacker. I do wish they had K1 Alexander. I think he has his own issues, but in this game, he would have been good. Alex Anzalone, though, probably going to be okay. He's not that great as like a baseline, but not going to be a disaster here, especially the Bears' offensive line is really going to struggle. Getting past line is going to be affecting the second level defenders because of the strength of the defensive line. And the Saints do miss a third linebacker. We'll see if Zach Vaughn or Craig Robertson who gets the most playing time. Hopefully, I'm assuming it's going to be Robertson in a playoff game. They're not going to throw Ricky out there a bunch. But either way, actually, I don't think either of those guys are going to be awful. And frankly, they don't run a ton of three linebacker stuff anyway. So then you get to the pass game. Pass rush wise, yeah, I mean, it's there. It's not like crazy. But again, I talked about how this Mustapher and Bars, the guard and center, are really vulnerable to like getting shoved back into the pocket, which really applies especially to David Onyemata. That dude is for real. And frankly, he's gotten Trey Hendrickson a lot of the sacks that he has. So he's an issue. And Cameron Jordan is against better tackles can be kind of shut down a little bit as a pass rusher. That is definitely not the case here. Charles Leno is vulnerable again to these bigger, stronger guys. Definition of Cameron Jordan. Jermaine Ifedi's just not that good. So there's definitely pressure here. I will say though, there's not a ton of like super quick stuff. The Saints do kind of struggle with like instantly winning off the line of scrimmage, which does limit the ceiling of just how effective a pass rush is going to be. So then you talk about the receivers. Allen Robinson's awesome. He's going to be open in this game a lot. But I will say that the Saints corners, at least like they're not like compared to like I don't know like the Ravens or something like that level, but they at least between George Jenkins and Marshall Lattimore do have a chance to like prevent Allen Robinson from being 20 yards open every play. So that's a positive, and especially given they don't have to necessarily cover for like 6 seconds because the pass rush is going to get their 5 points. So Allen Robinson is going to be good because he always is, but he's not going to go crazy. And there are other guys, Anthony Miller, Darnell Mooney, they can both separate really well, and that's the case here. But this is where their limitations show more. They're not like elite separators, and especially Anthony Miller just has trouble actually catching the ball. So their downfield options for the Bears, I mean, it's not nothing. It's really not nothing, and they've shown against decent pass defenses recently, like the first time they played the Packers, that their receivers are good enough to cause movement down the field, which I think is the case here. But then you still run into you have Trubisky at quarterback. Now that does boost the just general amount of points in the game because he does enough dumb things down the field to help with that, and dumb things to turn the ball over to give good field position to the other team. So I have them at 14 to 21 points. That actually might be a little low now that I'm saying that because, like I said, listen, their receivers are really good and their offensive scheme at Nagy gets roasted all the time, but he's not like garbage as a coach. He's kind of in the like Cliff Kingsbury level, which is not that bad. So yeah, I think they have chances at offensive success. Now it's not a ton. Saints defense is good, and they are going to limit a lot of stuff they do. But yeah, could they get in the upper teens, 20s? Yeah, for sure. So then you got the Saints offense. Injury wise, find here. So Nick Easton, starting guard, got put on IR. So you're talking about full game of Cesar Ruiz, which is not very good. And for the Bears, Jalen Johnson, Roquan Smith, both listed as questionable. I'm positive both going to play. They can't imagine. And Buster Screen out in slot corner. That's a really big deal. Not because Buster Screen is super good, although I do think he's okay, but because their backups are awful. They've been playing Duke Shelley, who is like comically bad at this point, and and also Buster Screen is a good veteran run defender from the slot. And again, Duke Shelley's not, so that's really an issue versus Saints defense. Yeah, running the ball, we'll see. The Saints interior are actually pretty vulnerable to the big strong guys for the Bears. Brett Urban, Will Nichols, Akeem Hicks, all really good. And Cesar Ruiz and Andres Pete, specifically Cesar Ruiz, is going to have a lot of trouble in this game. But Andres Pete too, he can move dudes when he's actually kind of similar to Cody Whitehair on the other side of the ball, where he can do things right and they go really right, but he can also fuck up pretty bad. And given how good the Bears interior is, that's definitely possible. So there's like chances there for the Bears to really stop them on the interior. Even on the edges, the Saints tackles are outstanding. Um, but as run blockers, Khalil Mack, he can only be so like he's never going to be a negative in run defense. He's neutral at worst, and here he's probably even a slight positive, especially against Tron Armstead. And there are other edges. I mean, Robert Quinn's been disappointing given the contract he signed, but he's really not that bad. And whether it's Barkevius Mingo, James Waters, they're not awful players. Now that is definitely a chance for the Saints there, and that's contributes to why I think they're going to score so many points. But the Bears, as far as the running the ball goes, do have a chance to really, really limit the Saints. And their linebackers are good too. Roquan Smith, David Wraith, and Roquan Smith are really good against this type of scheme. So, yeah, I want to talk about that. So then, I will also mention again, yeah, the Bears' second level guys though, that can be an issue between their safeties not great in run support and their slot corner really missing. That can be an issue. So then you get to the pass game. As far as the pass rush goes, like yeah, the Saints. I mean, they could run into some issues on the interior. Their guards are just vulnerable, and the Bears' interior rushers, Keem Hicks and Brett Urban specifically, are really good. But is that like an every down thing? No. And more importantly, is it quick enough to affect Drew Brees? Given how quick he throws the ball, that's really the issue. That's the same thing on the edges. Khalil Mack, he's really good. He's a pretty good fast rusher, but here is he going to beat these tackles quick enough to affect Drew Brees? No. Like he does provide a baseline of pressure, and he'll make some plays in this game. But is it like what is required to prevent the Saints from having offensive success? Definitely not. And then the receivers, this is a fucking disaster. Michael Thomas back, him and Emmanuel Sanders are both outstanding. They get open against anyone, and that definitely applies here. I like Kyle Fuller a lot, and he actually, I think, as much as any corner has a chance to like limit Michael Thomas. It's just you can only do so much, right? But Jalen Johnson, who I think is outstanding, I think is going to be really good going forward. He is shown to struggle with quicker players, and Emmanuel Sanders, in this playoff game, I think is going to be able to consistently win against him, and that would be something to worry about. Just like I said, I think Jalen Johnson good. This is a bad matchup. And then I mentioned Duke Shelley, awful. And when they play Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and they move them in the slot, I mean, you're talking about instant wins really consistently, which is bad. And frankly, the other Saints receivers between Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marquez Callaway, and they get Deontay Harris back too, who's if you don't know that name, watch for him. Number 11, he's really good. But yeah, they have enough to consistently find space, and it's not like Cook is going to be like shut down or anything either. So yeah, I have them at 28 to 35 points. And frankly, that could get higher. The Bears do still have an overall good defense, so I wouldn't necessarily expect that. But we've seen teams put up points on the Bears. The Vikings did it. The Packers did it. Like it's possible, and the Saints do match up well. Though I will mention, yeah, they do have to go up and down the field, like really methodically, which just limits the amount of points you can put up because of the clock. So we'll see. As far as the betting goes, I think the over. So the Bears are 10.5 point underdogs in a playoff game. That's kind of nuts. and the over under set at 48.5. I think the over is bettable because the Saints, again, they might get into the 30s, and I don't think the Bears are going to, like, it's not going to be impossible for them to score. I do think the Saints are going to win. I won't quite guarantee it though, because there is a world where the Bears defense, who has limited teams that need to move up and down the field a lot to like a lower amounts of points before that has happened. I do still think it's bettable. I would definitely expect the Saints to win, but it's not the way that I felt like about the Ravens, who I pretty much guarantee we're going to beat the Titans. So yeah, and then as far as the spread goes, I actually would take the Bears plus 10.5. That's just so much for a fucking playoff game, and the Bears do have ways to prevent the Saints from like succeeding on offense occasionally, and they do have ways to move the ball and score. So that's probably just too much. But notice I don't think it's touchable because there's also a world where the Saints win this game like 35-10 pretty easily, and you're talking about Mitch Trubisky quarterback, and you're just you know fuck that. So Saints win. We'll see what else happens, and that's this Wilder game.